Coming soon to a trailhead near you is this, the 2024 Subaru Impreza RS. A nameplate we haven't seen since the 2.5 RS in 1998. Well, it's back, now with new styling, a bigger engine, and some nifty features. And so today I'm going to test it and see if it is in fact a Junior WRX. So with this new design, Subaru hasn't changed the dimensions of its smallest all-wheel drive vehicle. The wheelbase and the width and length are exactly the same, but it is a little heavier and slightly taller. So the updated body structure is around 10% stiffer, and the additional sound deadening, while increasing the weight somewhat, has made it a little less noisy on the ears. They've also added a brake booster to lighten the pedal feel, and then it gets an electronic steering rack from the WRX to make the steering a little bit more precise. And finally, brake-based torque vectoring is now standard across the board. It used to be only available on the more expensive Imprezas. Now it's available on the base, the sport trim, and this, the RS trim. So at the front, it is unmistakably a Subaru. You get this blacked out front grille here, and then LED headlights that are adaptive and peer around the corners as you drive. So the RS trim gets these dark gray 18-inch wheels wearing Yokohama all-season tires. They're 225/40s all around. And then one new feature is this little plastic step here that comes in really handy when you're loading stuff onto the roof. So at the back you get a restyled bumper, an RS badge here, and another one here on each of the front doors. So since there are only 3 trims, they're all hatchbacks, which is good. I like hatchbacks, they're very practical. You do get this luggage cover on this RS version. And then with these seats up, you get around 20 cubic feet of space. There's no spare wheel. There's a couple of little spots here to store stuff. If you put these seats down, you get about 56 cubic feet of space. So under the hood is a 2.5 litre Boxer 4, essentially the same engine as in the Crosstrek Sport. It's got 182 horsepower, 178 foot-pounds of torque, although that torque does kick in 700 RPM earlier than it did before. All 4 wheels are driven. The transmission it uses is a CVT, although it does sort of mimic an 8-speed while it's doing so. 0 to 60 takes around 7.8 seconds. It's about 1.2 seconds quicker than last year's model. And of course, being slightly underpowered in my opinion, it's very good on fuel economy. So expect around 33 miles to the gallon with a light right foot. So how much is it? Well, base prices start at $23,000 for the Impreza. This RS trim is going to cost you $27,800. It's got one option package for $2,070. That includes the Harman Kardon premium audio system, a tilt and slide sunroof, and a 10-way powered driver's seat. The passenger gets nothing. The overall price out the door, including destination, is just over $31,000. Not too bad in the back. The seat is a little bit upright, it's a little bit short, but it's not too bad. You get some USB fast and slower power right there, and then decent amount of leg room. This seat's where I would normally drive, and then headroom's not too bad unless you're really tall. And there is a armrest with 2 decent cup holders. So gunmetal and some fake carbon fiber bits do a good job of dressing up the RS's interior. Now you do get cloth seats, but you've got these red bolsters, this red stitching, etc. on the side of these seats, as well as aluminum pedals and a nice leather steering wheel. Now these seats are super comfortable, way better than last year's, which were more like a Turkish prison. These are super soft and squishy, and I think they did a really good job in adding that additional foam. Overall, quality is pretty solid. Soft feel plastics. This feels good in your hand. Everything about this car is solid and practical. So all RS models and sports get an 11.6-inch touchscreen running Subaru's latest software. I like the fact that it has some backup for your temperature on both sides and a physical volume and tune button as well. But you can dig in, go into settings. It's a little bit slow at times, but it isn't bad. My favorite button, front and center, is turn off the stop start, which is really quite annoying. Other than that, everything is pretty good. Car info, bit of a delay. This is where you can see driving statistics, when your maintenance intervals are, etc., etc. All in all, it's pretty good. So ahead of the shifter, you get a wireless charger, and it does work through my case. I like the shifter too. It's not like a little silly switch. It's actually a good, got a good grip on it. So this model gets heated seats on both sides, which is kind of nice, but I just wish that this seat for the passenger had at least some manual height adjustment. You get a 12 volt and a couple of decent cup holders and these extenders if you have a really tall container. And back here, there's a little bit of extra storage space for stuff, including your phone. And then the center console is fairly deep and you can store plenty of stuff in there. Head of the driver, it's a fairly simple kind of dash. You've got revs on the left, speed on the right. I also have it set for a digital speed. Turned off the lane departure as well. And then average 18.4. I've been driving it pretty hard. And then down below you've got your range, 280 miles. But you can change the settings in here and you can change what you see in there. You can scroll through, you can do time, temperature, radio station, etc. It's all really well thought out. Okay, so what we want to do now is take it for a drive. So no drive modes to play with, we just literally turn. And off we go. All right. So you can hear that buzzy little engine, but it's definitely quiet in the outgoing model. So I'm quite happy that this has got Yokohamas on it. Even though they're all seasons, they're pretty decent tires. So the thing about this car is it's quite slow to get up to sort of like 30 miles an hour, 60 from a stop. But once you're on the move, it's actually surprisingly chuckable and grippy, and the chassis is pretty good. Sometimes though, the transmission lets it drop below its ideal rev range, and with no turbos involved, it takes a little bit to get going. But the thing about this little car is you can pretty much drive it flat out and have some decent fun in it. Now, of course, passing people on a two-lane road is going to be a little bit more difficult, but you can absolutely throw this thing into turns. Keep the revs high. Impressive handling little car. It's just such a shame they couldn't have given it, you know, a little bit more power. That would have been the way to go. Yeah, slightly uphill. Have to get out and push. Smooth revving engine though, and you can definitely hear that typical Subaru boxer noise. I think as long as you don't have any cars in front of you, you're pretty much good to go. This is a pretty smooth little section anyway, so. The question is, will Subaru put more power in it? If you put more power in it, you start treading on the toes of the WRX. What you could do is put the turbo engine from the Outback in here, but detuned. So give this car like 220 and a turbo, or give it 200 and 200, and this thing would be very good. You could probably describe it as a hot hatch at that point, and instead of a lukewarm hatch, which is what this one is. But to be honest, for someone that's looking for something economical, fun to drive, a little commuter car, doesn't want to spend a lot of money, this is not bad at all. Now, it does have paddle shifters. I'm not quite sure how much they would help me get a move on, but so the good thing about a car with only 185 horsepower is you can pretty much control it on the throttle and barely touch the brakes, particularly since this one's chassis and suspension is pretty well set up, and in typical Subaru fashion it's slightly softer as they sort of like it. So it's not bad on these pretty smooth roads that we're on now, but I think you might run into problems with a more difficult road, a bit bouncy. Hits that rev limiter at 6,000 RPM and just flies. The other thing about it is it actually feels faster than it is. Not in acceleration, but once you get on the move, you can see it looks like we're going pretty quick. Not really going that quick, but it feels that way. It sits low down. It only has around 5.5 inches of ground clearance. This is not your typical Subaru that you're going to take on trails. I mean, you could, but beware. Yeah, I really like what they've done with the chassis. Okay, let's go into manual mode now. We're in 6th, 5th. Actually feels pretty good in manual mode. Drop down. This is surprisingly chuckable. I feel like they just need to maybe put a little bit more on the suspension, make it a little bit more, a little firmer, I think, or give it a drive mode, because I can't find any drive modes in here. Nothing. So this bit of road is more sort of fast sweepers, probably a little more traffic on this section. Now brakes are pretty good. You don't need to really stomp on them to have them work. Pretty decent pedal feel. Steering is pretty direct. It's not bad. Subaru just feels so reluctant to give their cars more power. I mean, yes, there is a turbo engine. They revamped the WRX and barely gave it any more power. What was it, like 5 horsepower more? I mean, come on. That thing should have had at least 300 horsepower. A few little bumps in this road, but it's soaking them up with its softly suspension. Fun can be had in the new Impreza RS. In fact, I'm quite glad it has softer suspension, because these roads everywhere around here are just pretty rotten. So it's nice that it does have a compliant suspension. But it's tuned nicely. Everything seems to work in harmony. So now it's getting bumpier. You feel like you're definitely, there's a little bit of float. Yeah, I'm not too concerned about 185 horsepower though, but I just needs more torque, you know, at 1500 RPM. That's the way to win the lack of grunt battle. All right. Feels like there's a little bit of an extra surge in power at about 5,500 RPM, whether it's dropping down a gear or not. But but this would be so much more fun with a stick shift. And I think the problem that Subaru had was that they were offering the 5-speed stick shift that nobody liked, and they should have offered a 6-speed stick shift, which everybody would have loved. And this car would be perfect with that transmission. And if you can't do that, Subaru, then just give us a standard 8-speed auto and not a CVT. Because let's face it, nobody that likes to drive in a spirited fashion that might buy an RS wants a CVT. No one. Genuinely impressed with this little Subaru Impreza. It's not my kind of car, but someone out there might want one. And if you're not into taking it off-road, you know, then why get the cross track? This is going to be a little bit quicker because it's lighter. So all in all, I got to give this at least 1 thumb up for being a decent car, but please give us more power. So what do we think? Well, the little Impreza is not the most exciting car to drive because it desperately needs more power under here, but its chassis and suspension are quite entertaining when things get twisty. The good news is it's one of the most affordable ways to get an all-wheel drive car. Problem is, with this trim and the package, you're getting really, really close to the price of a WRX. Anyway, once again, thanks for watching. We appreciate it. Like, subscribe, and we'll catch you next time with another video.